Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to discuss about a question that has been asked by many people who wants to start their journey in software engineering, or they're starting to change their career to software engineering, or even they're in the middle of their career and they want to switch to something else. And that question gets asked around many times by many people, and that question is which programming language they should choose. And I think there's a lot of YouTube videos exist that mentions which programming language you should choose in, let's say, 2020, which programming language you should choose in 2023, or it might continue something like 2025, 2026. But what I want to do is I want to generalize all my knowledge in this video and provide you a walkthrough, I would say, about what happened to me and how I chose my first programming language based on what tips and decisions, and I want to share that knowledge with you. Now, I think one of the main common questions that people ask is that should they choose their programming language based on what is trend or what is will be very useful for them. That's something they will enjoy. Now, in that process, choosing your initial first language is very important for what I think, because whatever the first language you choose, probably you will learn all the programming and coding knowledge around that language. And that language probably will be a cornerstone for you in the future. Whichever language you will learn it based on that first language. Because in that first language, let's say you've learned how to write functions, how to write if else statements, how to write while statements, how to do for loops, and all these kind of like things. And whenever you're switching to a new language, the knowledge is the same, but the syntax of the code most of the time changes. Whatever the first language you choose is actually becomes the cornerstone for your journey. Now, I think many people answers this question to just saying that, okay, now AI is the very important, now you should learn Python, or maybe after a few years it will be different sector, or maybe a few years back, if you consider there will be like boom of mobile games, in general games, and then people were learning Unity or Unreal Engine and all this kind of stuff. Or even back in the time, mobile apps were very famous and people were learning all kind of like languages. Now, I think the question in here is that first you have to understand you do not have to rush when you're choosing your first programming language, because initially what you have to decide is what do you enjoy in programming. Now, I would give you a very brief of sectors that you might face in the coding world, software engineering world. Now, there are companies that you can work as a game company, like you can write games. Now, there are companies that you can work developing mobile apps. There are companies that you can work developing AI tools, AI codes or whatever related to that sector. Now, there are companies that produces chips like Nvidia, like processors, and in there they're using a different kind of languages, and you might learn that. Now, first thing first, I always tell to people that they should choose first of all what they are interested in. Now, let's say you're interested in, I will start with all of them and briefly give examples to every one of them. Now, let's say you want to choose a mobile. In that case, you have three options, even four options, I would say. Now, you have learning the native iOS, which is the Swift. It was Objective-C, but now it's Swift. And then you want to learn Android, developing mobile apps for Android, and that would be Kotlin. Or you want to learn creating a hybrid mobile applications, and that would be React Native or Flutter. Or let's say you want to build AIs, and Python will be very good for that. Or you want to, let's say, for the chips, for the processors, and for that will be C++ and C, because these are more deeper languages. Now, first of all, you have to decide what sector you want to work in. And I usually tell to these people, when you choose your first sector, then question comes what programming language I should continue. Now, during my university times, I have experienced this, and I've seen it in many people, that every people that wants to get into a software engineering world thinks that and wants to learn all the languages. Now, if you're early in your career, you might think that you have to know all the languages, but believe me, from experience, I can tell you that you do not have to need to know all the languages. You need to know one language, and that one language you should know everything about it. I wouldn't say everything, because it takes time to learn everything about the language, but I would say try to learn as much as about that language, how things work, and that language always will be your cornerstone. Usually in universities for computer science, the university choose to go with two languages mainly, and it can be either C++ or Python. So I was the one that who started learning first language with C++. And I have to say it was hard. And by the time I changed around to a Java, and Java was my cornerstone language, I would say. And based on that, I've managed to learn all the other languages that currently I'm using in my job or in my previous job. Now, every time a question comes to my mind, or I'm starting to write code in a new language that I don't know, the questions that I ask are always based on what I learned in Java. Let's say I'm learning JavaScript and I have to write function in there and I don't know what's the syntax. So I go and then write the question because I know that I have to create a function. I know how function works because of Java. And now, because of my searches, I find to do how exact same thing in JavaScript. That's why I'm saying that first language is very important in an engineer's life. And apart from that, from my personal experience, I have to tell you that if you choose your first language, try to go with the object-oriented programming language. And the reason I'm saying is that because it helps you understand the stuff more deeply and more thoroughly, because object-oriented languages basically like the whole code is written around the object, and in these kind of languages it's usually types strict and you have to mention the type and you have to strictly mention what you're going to do with that type of object, and it's all stricted. I suggest that many people that they should choose one object-oriented language. It could be any one of them that you're interested, and just start learning the deep base knowledges with that, because that will help you understand more of the stuff in the future, and then you will understand what types of data that can be used are efficient, what are inefficient, and which data type can be used in which situation and what situation. I think these kind of stuff, what I found out helpful is that learning object-oriented language was always very helpful. And as I said in my previous sentences, do not try to learn everything at all. You do not have to learn everything. Usually a software engineer knows 2-3 languages they're good at. I mean, they understand the others. Understanding is not that hard part, but usually 2-3 in coding languages the engineers knows good, that can write very good in those languages, and that's how it continues through their life. Now you might think that knowing every language can be beneficial for you, but believe me, in the great picture, it's not what the language in what language you're typing code. As I've said in my previous video, it's about how you approach a problem and how you solve it. A language is just a tool that helps you to solve that problem. Now if you know how to solve a problem, a language shouldn't be a problem. So that's the main tip I can give you. And I would suggest that if you have to choose one language and don't know where to start, I can suggest you start with Python, because usually it's considered that Python is the very straightforward and kind of easy to start languages, one of the languages, programming languages, and it's because Python is like a straightforward, kind of looks like the English language. It's very straightforward, how you define variables, how you define the functions and everything, and it can be a good way to start. And then with the current boom of AI and everything, I think Python would be very beneficial to you also, because a lot of the AI codes related to it, even a lot of backend part, I would say, in a lot of companies is written in Python, and that can be very helpful to you to have your deep knowledge in that language, and maybe you can switch from there to a different sector. And these are the old tips that I can give you. Now if you find this video very helpful, I have videos in my channel related to if you should be a software engineer in the AI world, or if you're starting to be a software engineer, is a laptop very important for you? These are in my channel, you can go and check out them. I really hope that this video was helpful to you, and it will give some clarity to your mind, that now you know how you should approach this question and how you should choose your first languages. Thank you very much for listening to me, and see you in my next video.